What is going on, boys and girls? Welcome once again to the Real Life on the Bass, Kayak, and Beers podcast. Let me start by saying this is, as you see on the little ticker on the bottom, a pre-recorded episode. I know I usually go live on Thursdays, but if you are watching on YouTube and Facebook, you're commenting and I'm not responding, I'm not ignoring you, just please be advised. It is a pre-recorded episode. You might be asking, well, if it's not live, why bother? I kind of want to stay consistent in my content. So I wanted, even though I'm not going to be able to do a live because I'm going to be away this weekend and also next weekend. So this episode and the next episode are both going to be pre-recorded. I still want to remain consistent in case you are interested in our content and you are looking forward to our live shows every Thursday. We're still here. It's just not going to be live. But feel free to leave your comments. Feel free to share on Facebook, YouTube. If you are listening to our MP3 formats like Apple Podcasts or Spotify Podcasts, make sure leave a comment, leave a review. It could be a 5-star review, even better. That really does help with the growth of the podcast. And hopefully we've done a good job here in the Bass, Kayak, and Beers podcast to earn your 5-star review. We really hope you enjoy this content after all this is for you guys. As a reminder, if you're new to the program, we have 2 episodes that we run a week. Advanced Kayak Angler airs every Wednesday morning on an MP3 format and in the afternoon on YouTube and Facebook. And that's with your host, Dan Perry, where he breaks down tips and tricks from some of the best kayak anglers and bass fishing anglers around the country, and definitely break down some of their favorite baits or favorite techniques to kind of help you get a better experience when you're out there fishing. And we have the Real Life, which, like I mentioned, every Thursday live on Facebook and YouTube, and our podcast. This same segment is going to air on our podcast every Monday, and it's available on every podcast streaming platform. That's it. No review for this week because I really haven't gone fishing. It is hot as hell here in Texas, like it is in most of the country. So yeah, it's not worth up. I don't want to say it's not worth it because fishing is always worth it, but getting up at 4 a.m. just to drive to the lake and only able to fish a couple of hours with this hot, scorching hot weather, which, can be a little bit dangerous if you're not hydrated. It's not. Got to think it twice before I do it, but I may have no choice. This hot weather is just getting hotter and it's not letting up, and I'm not going to wait till October or November to get back on the water. So we'll see. But anyways, we have a great episode for you today. I got Lance McWhorter. I hope I should have asked him how to pronounce his last name, but I'm sure I got it right, or I hope I got it right. He just opened a kayak or paddle store in East Texas. He also is tournament director for the Jackson U.S. Bass Trail. I'm sure I botched that name, but he'll talk a little bit about it. For the East Texas chapter of it, that's an interesting tournament that is adopting kind of a format old school KBF had, where it's KBF when it's in golden age. So we're talking about that. He is also, just like my last week's guest, a restaurant or a chef who owns a restaurant and a speakeasy bar, which I love, by the way. So we'll be talking about, how he got to kayak fishing, how he got into being a chef, and, kind of similarities between fishing and eating fish. So that's it. Let's bring our next guest in. Lance, how you doing, man?
What's up, buddy?
You got your beer? You got your Modelo?
Yeah, we got the Modelo. We got the Team Jackson Modelo, and we are ready, man. Ready,
Awesome.
ready.
How are you doing, Lance?
I'm good. I'm busy, man. I'm always, nobody can ever accuse me of letting my feet stay stuck in one place. It's like I'm always running. I'm always chasing dreams,
You are a tournament director. You are a chef, a restaurant owner, a paddle store owner, manager. I'm sure you were a bunch of hats. How do you manage to do it, man? Where's that energy? Where's that focus comes from?
I have a wife that keeps me completely sane and helps chase.
Oh, you're married too.
Yeah, I could not do anything if it wasn't for my wife, Bailey. She is an absolute trooper, also a chef. So whenever I'm doing one thing or the other, she is always able to step in and kind of help the managerial roles at any of the businesses. But yeah, I just opened up ETX Paddle Sports. That's acronym for East Texas Paddle Sports. For those who don't know, yeah, just a little fish and kayak shop, recreational kayak, stand up paddle boards, some really cool bass fishing tackle rods, reels, a lot of the lures that and gear that work really well for the East Texas area. It's just kind of a curated fishing store, that, and then of course my restaurant is Culture ETX, which is a little kind of fine dining restaurant here on the square in downtown Tyler, and it's got a little bar in the back, little upscale speakeasy that's called the Plaid Rabbit, and
I like that name.
It's the Plaid Rabbit. Just I don't even know how I came up with that. It was just some random event, But I wanted it to be kind of like Alice in Wonderland meets 1940s LA film noir with a good dash of steampunk thrown in or something. But it just kind of fit the vibe of the room, and when people see that little speakeasy, they just really kind of trip out. It's cool. It's got the secret entrance from the restaurant. You have to know the password, and if you just walk in and ask for the bar, my host will just kind of shoo you away, like, man, I don't know what you're talking about. It's pretty fun.
This is funny because my adopted daughter, my foster daughter, who's she's back. She's actually getting married here in a couple of months. Very proud of her. She's back with her mom, by the way, but she used to live with us for a couple of years. She was telling me the other day, it's like, oh yeah, I found this great speakeasy bar, and I was like, I don't know what a speakeasy bar is. And she's like, you should. You're old enough to be in the prohibition area. And I was like, oh yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one. Remember who gave you a roof over your head? But
right? She expects you to sign those checks for that wedding too. I mean, that's like I'm taking $3,000 off right there.
Yeah,
you get fake flowers.
So for those, layman terms, for those that like me that didn't know what a speakeasy bar was up until like a week ago, what is a speakeasy bar? And
I mean, it's a throwback to prohibition. That's really what it is. Back when the G-men and the liquor cops and the feds were running around raiding people, and alcohol was illegal in the entire country, and we still liked our parties. So I mean, it's there was a bunch of underground bars with secret entrances and kind of rites of passage and things your people you had to know or phrases you had to know they'd change locations frequently, and it would just be usually some sort of little hidden room behind something nondescript. In this case, it's a restaurant, and I built a janitor's closet in the back of the dining room, and you open it up. If you just walked up and opened it up and looked in there, it looks just like a janitor's closet. But there's a secret opening in that janitor's closet that my host takes people through, and it just opens up into kind of this opulent little bar. I mean, it's really cool, just darkly lit, cool lights, old 100-year-old building, so old brick walls and steel bar, and I mean, it's really cool. You've got really high-end cocktails like craft cocktails, like the mixologist stuff, smoked. You get your old fashioned, and it's in.
Oh, you got them smoked. Oh,
it's in a dome where the cocktail server will lift off the dome and smoke goes everywhere through. I mean, it's just one of those really cool kind of fun places to hang out. Good food. It's a neat little place.
That's one cocktail drink that I've really enjoyed over the last 4 or 5 years is the old fashioned. Mm. And recently, a buddy of mine introduced me to like smoking them. He has the whole kit of smoking them. My wife just got me one for our anniversary, which is not until November, but she decided she wanted to get me an early gift for that. And I was just this weekend, I was hosting some friends, and we got to smoke a little bit of those old fashioned. They're really good. I really enjoy those cocktails. When it's made right, it's really nice.
Yeah, it really is. It's one of my favorite ones to play around with, and that's one of the ones that I always kind of encourage my friends when they're learning more about drinking and bourbons and things like that, or ryes, is to kind of play around and make your own your own twist on an old fashioned. Like I have my specific recipe, the way that I make them every time, and it's just kind of fun to play around with because there's so few ingredients and it's really easy to make.
Yeah.
It's really easy to make, but it's not very easy to make them well. You know, a lot
Yes.
of it's technique and stirring it down. There's a lot of kind of just kind of cool little things that go into it.
Yeah. There are some nuances that kind of
Mhm.
make it more interesting where it's not too easy like a rum and coke,
Yeah.
but not too hard like I don't know, like an old like not like a Bloody Mary or something. It's a little
Mhm.
bit more complicated, but it's not messy to make. It's simple, but you really have to dial in, how many drops of bitters you're gonna
Right.
use, how much uh sugar or what is the name of that? What do they
Simple
call it?
syrup. Yeah.
Simple syrup and kind of like all those things kind of like mesh together.
Mhm.
Which whiskey are you gonna do? Like a rye, a bourbon, or a Scotch, an
Yeah.
Irish whiskey? They all have that little niche. But yeah, man, it's interesting. So you mentioned your wife is a chef. Is
Uh-huh.
that how you both kind of fell in love? Was it through food or was
No,
it,
she,
how did that came about?
she came into being to really find herself in cooking after we got together. She was working as kind of HSE, like health, safety, and environmental in the some oil companies. And we got together. We were introduced by one of my former teammates in Iraq from my previous life, and he just said you two would be perfect together, and we were. Well, like we were just best friends from second one. But I was kind of a blossoming chef at the time. Like I was just coming into uh, my first restaurant that was really like the one that I was running, and it was right up there in Jefferson, Texas, right next to Caddo. It was just this beautiful area in this beautiful little town, and we got together and she kind of through a friend of ours that we met up there, she got into cooking Texas barbecue. So she wound up working for some Texas Monthly top 50 barbecue places and got
Oh, really?
really really good at that. And then we moved to Dallas for a while I was kind of working my way up through the real kind of bougie restaurants as a chef. And she was working at Lockhart in Dallas and
Yeah.
did some other pop up stuff and then switched over and tried her chops at being a chef at some of the restaurants in Dallas, and she did a great job. So it's something that she just kind of came into, but phenomenal pit master, and one of the very few widely recognized female pit masters in Texas barbecue. So she is she's a
Definitely a keeper.
yeah, she's a machine when it comes to smoking meats. The ladies fishing foundation or federation that kind of goes around and does all their events.
Yeah.
They had the big event at Lake Fork. I think that was last
Last
year
year,
and
yeah.
the year before, but they had us come out and cater that for them. So it was a lady pitmaster in charge of smoking meats for all the lady anglers, and that was really cool to see out there. At Lake Fork Marina with all the gals with my wife. I was just her helper that day. It was like I got to take a step back and just let her cook for the ladies, and it was super cool.
So does she still run like is she still a pit master in your restaurant or any restaurant
No,
barbecue restaurant?
we keep. She does barbecue pop ups from time to time. We'll
Okay.
do it on a day that the restaurant's closed. We'll just announce it on social media, and when we do, there's a line down the block.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool. She kind of tends to stick to that in the cooler months, and just because riding that pit for 24 hours in the heat of the day is
Yeah.
no fun for anybody. But
Especially in the summer.
she's kind of slid back into that chef role, and when I'm traveling around, doing Bassmaster events or Hobie events or fishing tournaments here, she's always stepping in and helping to hold down the helm at the restaurant.
That's another thing I forgot to mention. You have fished pretty much every Bassmaster uh,
Oh yeah,
kayak series this year, on
yeah,
top of everything that you're doing.
right.
How does this season compare to the rest of the seasons that you fished? And
Last
how do you
season,
feel about your season this year?
this season, I'll start kind of at the beginning of it, like kind of my whole deal. And when I did my podcast and stuff like that, which one of the things I had to give up to get all this stuff going was I was new at tournaments. I just started fishing tournaments in 2020. I've been kayak fishing for well over a decade, but I never got into the tournament thing. And I got into it locally, and then I was like, okay, well, this is cool, but I fish all these lakes anyways. So I'm just gonna go start fishing national tournaments, and everybody's kind of like, "Are you crazy? Like these are the best anglers in the universe, like." And I was like, I don't care. I'm not one to get beat down or feel inadequate if I don't do well in a tournament. It's been kind of a process of learning for me. That's kind of always been my thing is hey, I'm the guy that's new and I'm learning and I'm taking you all along with me. So it's this season has been really good. The last year was a little tougher, but I was really hitting it hard. I was doing a lot of the Hobies, I was doing a lot of the Bassmasters, and I was just gone all the time to the point of where it was kind of almost burning me out a little bit and getting a little frustrated. And when you get out and you start fishing these tournaments, especially on the national level, you have to realize that you're kind of paying to play for a while, and you're paying to suck. Like it's not. This isn't something that you just go out and be good at. This is something that these people who are at the tops, and I'm now so privileged to be able to call them my friends, and a lot of them who I've gotten to know very, very well and become great friends. These people have been working at this for a decade, for as long as I've been kayak fishing. These guys have been, and gals have been tournament fishing. So this season it feels like my learning has really been coming into where I can actually make something out of it. So I'm starting to get those. I'm starting to make better decisions. I'm starting to figure fish out a little bit better. I'm starting to get consistent and just getting limits. And I mean that's one of the things where a lot of people don't realize. You don't just go out there and you chase trophies. Like you go out there and you chase limits. When you learn how to put up a limit every time you get on the water, then you learn how to chase trophies. It's and you have to be very real with yourself. You have to be. You can't be. I see so many people, online like beat the crap out of themselves when they have a bad time, and refuse to celebrate, cool things. I got a top 50 at where were we at La Crosse, Wisconsin. I was stoked, man. Like day one, I got a limit, but it was fairly small. I had some things change on me, and then day two, it was like the 14th biggest bag, and I was just like, man, that's awesome. I mean, I go in and I got it. I made some changes. I figured it out, and I moved up 50 places, and I was sitting there going, man, that's something to celebrate. Like I'm making a post about that. I'm just like, hey, man, look, I went up 50 places. I got a top 50 in a Bassmaster. That is awesome, and I want to see more people doing that instead of beating themselves up and going, oh man, I sucked or I did this. Dude, you're learning. It's growing. This is nothing about what we do is easy, So, so that's kind of what I try and do, on my social media pages, at the shop when I'm teaching people about kayak fishing, or helping them pick boats, rig boats, gear, whatever. It's just I try and teach them that Gerald Swindle, that PMA, like. It's real important. It's really important to not lose the fun in this, and to not take the opportunity to get those lessons when you can take them.
Yeah, no, and I think you hit it on the head on that one, especially if we are like new to this sport. I know, I mean, there's anglers out there like Drew Gregory, Christine Fisher, who've done it for years, and it's kind of like expected that they're gonna catch a check, and maybe for them their perception of success is obviously going to be different than ours. Their definition of winning, of a moral win is very different than ours. But if you're one of those like you and myself that are trying to get into that grind of just getting better and do the stepping stones of like, okay, your evolution as an angler, one that I'm a huge fan of, and I seen her catch shecks at the last two event, Wesley Gray.
Oh yeah,
Wesley Gray.
Awesome.
She kind of like started last year. Never heard her name on the stage, but now I think she got a check on the Bassmaster Kayak Series, and she just got a check on the last Hobie BOS top 10 finish. And not that it's a competition, but it kind of highlights, she's not now. It's like it feels like I mean, it's still a long ways to go to compete with Christine Fisher, but looks like Christine Fisher has finally found somebody out there that's kind of like coming up just
Yeah.
like she did, and making her way up the ranks. And it's to me, it's an inspirational story to
Oh
see
yeah.
somebody, a mother that's has a full-time job, that is taking time off to put in the grind, for the last 2 or 3 years, you know not getting the results that maybe she wanted, but now eventually working towards, like, okay, now I'm catching checks.
Exactly.
And
And
the
she's
next evolution is actually maybe even winning a tournament
exactly. Yeah.
and
And I mean,
staying consistent after that.
Wesley, she is one of the most just purely awesome people that I've met out
Yeah.
there, and we seem to run into each other almost everywhere that we go. I think we met for the first time uh, when we were, I mean, when we were both fairly new, up at Dardanelle, or up on some muddy ramp somewhere in the middle of nowhere, and then ran into each other again. And she's just always somebody that I always seem to run into, and is just always uh, just kind of a ray of light. Like, she's always smiling,
Yeah.
she's always positive, she's always got something to say. Even when she had a rough day, she's willing to laugh it off and take the lessons and take the lumps, and just not lean so heavy on herself. And to be, I got to sit there and hang on with her for a little bit while we were waiting at God, where were we? It was Wisconsin, yeah,
Wisconsin.
lacrosse.
Yeah.
And she pulled, I think it was 13th, which was awesome. Grabbed a check. It was just like, that was fantastic to see. And then a top 10 next time around. Yeah, I mean, it's just she gets out there and she works and she learns, and she's grinding, and she's making the posts, and she's creating this presence for herself online. And that's kind of the same direction that through my old podcast that I used to do, which was Tournament Fishing Basics, which was like
Yeah.
pushing people, you know, towards learning and gaining that experience, and gaining the followers, and gaining the traction, and getting sponsors, and doing things like that. I mean, she's doing that like by just checking them off as you go, and it's just like this perfect, what it seems from the outside, which is like this perfect, just climb to stardom. I mean, it's like this, you know,
Yeah.
and people like Wesley just make it look that smooth. I mean, it's just, she's got out. It's Christine was the same way ever since I've known her. A lot of people coming
Yeah.
up and like that, and it's cool to watch it when people are on that first good run. And I mean, what I hope I hit that one day soon. It's my first national that I came out the gate on. I cashed a check in seventh, and that was kind of like, that was unrealistic expectations. That was kind of like one of those. Well, I don't think that's probably not going to happen again, But since then, it's been a fight. It's been a struggle. But it's like, keep that learning, keep going, keep trying, And I think, especially in angling, and I learned this a lot since opening ETX Paddle Sports and doing a couple of events local, like sports expos, and meeting so many young ladies who are in, and by young ladies I mean from 8 years old to, you know 17, 18 years old, who are just ecstatic about kayak fishing, and they would stop by. I'd have my Jackson Nar just rigged out in the booth, and everybody stops by and oohs and ahs. But some of those kids, some of those younger ladies were just enthralled by it, and it's amazing how many people are already learning the names, you know, like Christine. It's just that people know who she is, and she's such an inspiration. And to see Wesley come up alongside her, especially after meeting so many of them when we did that cookout at the Lady Anglers event,
Yeah.
and just watching how tight that crew is, and just how hard those ladies work, and a lot of the extra stuff that they have on their plate, just because they are ladies in a sport that has not necessarily been friendly to ladies forever, at least on the boat
Yeah.
side. So it's really cool to see that coming up, and to watch it inspiring this next generation of anglers that's coming along the way.
No, for real. That. I think you put it as perfectly as you can express it, because it is just that. And one of the things that I wanted to touch on, and you mentioned, is like, as you grow in this sport, we each, and this applies in life too, we each have our own story.
Mhm.
You know, it's not whether, you know, what the other person did. We have our own story to write. If you like really love this sport and you want to compete, you know, your journey is your journey. And there are parts of the journey where you're like, it seems like you can't do anything wrong. And there are parts of the journey where you think it seems like you can't do anything right. But it's still your journey. You're writing your own journal through this and the learning experience. And nothing comes out perfect, not even for the most successful anglers. Just every chapter in their career come out perfect. So I just think that's something that's worth investing on. You
Mhm.
know, if you love this sport. Now, mind you, this could apply to anybody. If somebody likes mountain biking,
Yeah.
you know, wants to enter mountain biking tournaments or trails and all that, then you know it applies to anything that you put that it's worth it for you to put in your life,
Right.
aside from, you know, your regular kind of mundane things of work and paying the bills and all that. If you love something that kind of, you know, gets you out of the routine and it's an adventure in some way, shape, or form, then you know it's worth riding that journey.
Yeah.
You can't get the failures are part of it. It's like the
Yeah.
scars, it builds character.
Failures are part of it. Scars are part of it. Haters are a part of it. Haters are a
Yeah,
big part of it. I'm pretty vocal about haters. You know, being a chef and a restaurant guy, and you know, having my young tournament fishing career be very public. You know, it's just and in the meantime, you know, I'm trying to accomplish as much as I accomplish with through businesses or through TDN tournaments or through opening my own freaking kayak shop. You know, I mean, like
yeah,
it's just I think one of the lessons that kind of doesn't get taught a lot is that is teaching people how to not quit and
yeah,
how to keep their heads up and keep their spirits up and how to tune out the naysayers and the haters and the you know there's you know kayak fishing just like any other community has its I always call them the scamps, you know, the scamps
yeah,
that they're always running around in the background just talking about everything, never doing anything, never trying anything, but always talking, you know. And
yeah.
it's very out there in kayak fishing, and a lot of times you just have to be able to turn that off and just keep going. You know, it's people can say all that they want, but they you cannot let that have any impact on
Yeah.
what you want to accomplish. You know, it's tough. You know, but trying to guide people through that is what I you know a lot of people do. You see them talking about it on their Facebook stories. You know, like I said, Wesley's a great one. I do a lot of talking about that. Dusty Yacker is another good one to
Yeah.
follow. Who's just kind of you know like out there, you know, taking his licks and digging in and having a tough go, then having a good go, then having a tough go and a good. Yeah, I mean it's everything is out there with that guy. You get to go out and you get to watch it. You know, and there's a lot of people out there that put their whole lives out there for everyone to see. And to me, those are the people that are really just kind of like markedly special, you know. And those are people that warrant the likes and the follows and the cool kid points,
Yeah.
a lot more than than the actual cool kids click. You know, like
Yeah.
I enjoy a lot of the cool kids click too. You know, but it's kind of like one of those you have to be able to filter. You have to be able to filter out your surroundings because if you listen to people, you're going to fail. I mean, it's just
Yeah.
there's a lot more people trying to tear you down than build you up in anything, and kayak fishing is no different. Business is no different. It's just you know just keep trudging forward and keep just doing your best and never let anybody take your dreams from you. You know, I mean, it's just they were your dreams for a reason. So there's no reason you didn't have any input from anybody else when you decided to chase those dreams. So you don't need anybody's input to help you, you know, think poorly about your choice of dreams to follow. Just if you want to do it, do it. Never quit.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And one of the things that I'm sure people that have listened to my podcast long enough and follow me on social media, I've mentioned this before, and then maybe they're tired of hearing it. But you know, nobody back when Tom Brady was with the New England Patriots, if you weren't from New England, you're probably a hater.
Right.
Can't think of anybody that hates the Cleveland Browns. Can't. That it doesn't come to mind. Why? No disrespect to anybody in Ohio, especially the guys from the Catch podcast, Matt Souders and Brad Hicks. I know they're from Ohio.
Like
Love those guys.
except when
But
Johnny Manziel was there.
yeah, exactly. But that was Joey Manziel. But my point is, you take a team that hasn't done nothing, dwelled in irrelevancy for so many years. You're not going to have haters because you're not doing any significant. You're not doing anything that make other people jealous.
Right.
So, when you have haters, you're doing something right.
Yeah, absolutely.
That means you're having success at doing something. So
one of the things that I saw not too long ago was, you may hate me, but you're watching me. And if you're watching me, that's still a fan.
I laugh when people people sometimes get upset at haters commenting on your social media. So I got one reel that went viral, dumb reel. I mean, it was just me casting under a dock. The reel lasted like 5 seconds, but it went viral for whatever reason. I don't understand algorithms, but it went viral after a couple of haters just starting, writing stuff, commenting on the post, something that I was like, that's weird because I'm not saying anything. I'm not. I actually posted on the comment that something like along the lines like, I worked hard to try to skip it, and this is, the best, something humbly saying like, I'm working hard to learn this technique, and it's just a video, and oh my God, you got some haters. But the funny thing about it, and for those that are getting into social media, once those comments started trending, that took the video viral. So now that's kind of like the algorithms. One thing that I've learned is like, if it becomes controversial, it becomes hateful, it becomes viral. So sometimes I'm like, man, I wish somebody would say something nasty so my video will go viral on it. Everybody's being too nice. I need somebody to stir the pot so this video goes viral. So I mean, I think it's a lot of times I hear people talking about, oh well, the kayak fishing community sucks, or or they get discouraged about the sport. I'm like, listen, this is for you and your enjoyment and your own personal growth, your outlook, your in life, your decompress button, your pressure relief valve. I'm starting to round out of the analogies, but you get the gist of it. So, and that when it started, it had nothing to do with social media. It had everything to do about you finding something that you thought it was worth learning, exploring, and incorporated into your, into your life.
Right.
That had nothing to do with social media. So why is social media ruining it for you? Why? What if I hear people complaining, oh, the tournaments are ruining the kayak fishing experience? I'm like, why?
Yeah.
Like, you don't need Bassmaster or Hobie BOS to get up at 4 a.m., go to a lake, and try to catch your 5 limit. I do that all the time, and I'm not participating in any tournaments. It's what you make of it. If you let, and again, this applies to everything in life. If you let outside voices, affect your enjoyment, I hate to say it, but that's on you. That's on me. If I decided I want to go kayak fishing, and I decided to do a social media, and I decided to do a podcast, is because I wanted to do it, because I enjoy it and I want to share that. I understand there's going to be haters. I understand that there are people that are not going to be interested in my content. They're not necessarily haters. It's just my content is not, what inspires them, or what they feel like they can relate to, and that's fine. I can't expect for the masses to love and like everything. My mom would tell me this when I was young. It's like, you're not $100 bill. Not everybody's gonna love you. Not everybody's gonna like you, and that's fine. That's okay. As far as the haters, just let them be. It's like that's their problem. It's not yours. Just don't let it affect you.
I always looked at it from like a restaurateur's point of view. Is me coming up as a chef. I came up working for some of those, just really crazy high end, like like Food and Wine Best New Chef, Bon Appetit, like James
Yeah.
Beard Award. Like I came up working for those kind of chefs, and so I really learned technique and I really learned processes and accountability and consistency and how to make everything. But I also learned by working for these chef owned places that there was identity in everything that we cooked, and that's what made it really special. It was kind of the artistic aspect of it. Is when you go to a restaurant like that, when you go to a chef driven restaurant like mine, you have to take into consideration that this is my vision on how this should be. This is my vision on how the music should be, how the plate should be, how it looks on the plate, the flavor, everything. And it's if you just went along doing what everybody liked, that's what we call Applebee's, or Chili's, or just some plain old,
Yeah.
it's the same thing. It's not good, but
Generic.
you know what you're gonna get. It's like Bradley Cooper in that movie Burnt. They went to like a Burger King or something and got a cheeseburger and he bit into it. He's like, it's not good. He goes, but I know what it's gonna taste like every single time. I go to Applebee's and I get a steak with their vegetables and their rice. I know exactly what it's going to taste like because it all comes out of the same bag and goes into the pot and gets dumped on your plate and comes out of the microwave after X amount of seconds and goes right onto your plate. I mean, that's just how they do it. So that is the people that I won't say don't want to compete, but the people that don't want to be held to any sort of standards or be looked at or for I'm trying to think of that cool old analogy, of I think it was Teddy Roosevelt, talking about, the warriors entering the arena, marred with sand and dust and whatever, those poor souls that didn't have the nuts, wherewithal to step into the dirt to begin with, so, if you want to try and do something great, or if you want to try and be really good at something, you can't do that with the intention of being safe and flying under the radar. And, you've got to be able to put yourself out there and whether there's criticism or whether there's not, one thing that I told people, back in my military days was, it's really hard to fly a plane with one hand on the ejection lever. It's like that's, you're not going to be able to, if you're scared of getting shot every second, you're not going to be able to do anything, So I think it's just no matter what you do, whether it be kayak fishing, whether it be tournament fishing, whether it be creating content, you have to be able to be creative and be yourself and put yourself out there as an individual, because everything is really public right now. It's like I feel like there's people that I run into at boat ramps all over the country, and they go, "Oh, you're Lance. Like I used to watch your podcast, like, or I've seen you on this or that or whatever. Like it's cool to meet you, And it's like that's what you need in this what's now quickly becoming a business outside of a pastime, which a lot of people, and that's something we can touch on. Is now that it's kind of making this really huge shift from just this cool thing where dudes were hanging out with SD cards and and uploading stuff on the boat ramp. Now it's coming mainstream. Now they're talking about us, during the Bassmaster Elites. Like they're taking little commercial break. Well, on the Bassmaster Kayak Series today, Mark. Oh, right. Well, we're that's happening, and as that happens, it becomes more and more of a business, and it's watching people make that shift and learning how to take those lessons that we've been talking about and turn that into an actual career. It's that's what's on the horizon for kayak fishing. It's there's no way to ignore that. Is at the more, and the only thing that is holding it back right now is ourselves and kind of finding that core group of people to kick it off. And really, you've got people out there who are really, really doing it right. But it's just like kind of finding 100 of those, or 100 150 of those. It's really tough, but it's coming.
Yeah, and I think things kind of get weeded out after time. I think cream eventually rises to the top, because it can be exhausting, dealing with negativity and all that. So usually people just kind of get to a point where, as every sport right now, think about when the football, American football started. Back then, there was no social media. Back when basketball started, there was no social media. Back when where baseball was invented, it was one of those things where, it was word of mouth. And
Mhm.
now it's different. Now, in a way, for sports to get more popular, it's easier, but they also have a lot more obstacles in the
Mhm.
sense that they have to compete with other things, and there's money now involved more than ever. When basketball was invented, there was not this corporate companies, Spalding or whatever brand of sneakers or footwear or everything that was trying to
Mhm.
control where that would go, because there was no sneakers
Yeah.
for basketball. There was no basketball. There was no manufacturer for any of this, for any of the items that we'll be using. So now it's the growth of the sport. Unfortunately, it's never going to be like it was back in the days.
Mhm.
Yes, now it's easier to make it more popular, but it's harder, I think, to make it sustainable. And how do I put this? Like mainstream, in the sense that there's once it game becomes popular, then really corporate money gets involved, and then it's like, the organic growth kind of gets stained
Yeah.
by corporate money trying to sway it into each direction, and started going from one side to another. So it's we're in a different era, I think, when we think about developing a sport and developing a community, for better or worse.
Right.
And any news flash for anybody that's looking to get into an activity to kind of like complement their lives and their free time. If what you see on social media bothers you about kayak bass fishing, guess what? If you go into uh, golf, you're gonna run
Oh
into
God. Yeah.
a lot of haters as well.
Yeah.
Ask anybody, any Bermuda golf, even if, heck, one of the trending things right now is pickleball. Try to start a YouTube channel on pickleball, and you'll get as much haters as you would if you were
Yeah.
trying to start a YouTube channel on kayak bass fishing. It is just, unfortunately, it is a part of life, and whatever you do, if you are discouraged from doing something you love because of what other people say, you're not going to do anything. It doesn't matter what you try to do, you're not going to do anything, because there's always going to be a group of people that are just going to hate on your success.
Yeah.
And that's just what it is. Well, you mentioned, a movie about fishing burnt. I have to ask you, because I got introduced to this movie by Daniel Perry, my co-host from the Advanced Kayak Angler, or the host of the Advanced Kayak Angler, I should say. Have you watched the movie with Ralph Fiennes,
Oh yeah.
The Menu? Did you
Absolutely.
like it? That
I
was an awesome
love that
movie.
movie. That's as a. I mean, I've come from. I won't say restaurants that were that, you know, robotic crazy, but I've worked at restaurants pretty close to that level. As one of the chefs in the background there. And coming up to owning my own place, to having. I mean, like every single person that he had in. I mean, I swear the technical advisors on that movie, The Menu, were so great. Um, every single table was representative of a group that is very well known to
Yeah.
chefs and maitre d's and sommeliers at the fine dining level. I mean, we know every single table, we know those people, everyone. And just to watch the way that they lined them up, just throughout the whole thing, it was so. I mean, I don't want to say it was like kind of every chef's dream come true to get to, serve the food critic, every single course with her broken sauce, your broken
Yeah.
sauce.
Yeah.
It's like there was so much stuff in there that was for chefs. And I mean, people who have never
Yeah.
spent a day in a kitchen love that movie. Those of us
I
that
thought it was
that come
amazing.
from really, really fine dining world, like that was kind of that movie was really kind of made for us, and
Yes.
we really appreciated it. I mean, it's just hilarious because cooking it at a fairly high level is extremely difficult, and I
Yeah.
mean, especially at restaurants like that where every little detail is so meticulously crafted, and to it's insane the work that goes into a Michelin starred or a James Beard caliber restaurant. I mean, I remember just coming home from Iraq and my journey as becoming a chef. Going to work at those places. I mean, I'm a guy that's been in 2 wars and just came back from just living a pretty wild life, and the stress of working in places like that was so debilitating, and it was so just constant. It was just like this impending sense of doom and just pressure pushing down on your head nonstop. For 4.5 hours of prep every single day just to get ready for 4.5 hours of dinner service. It was outrageously stressful. And but yeah, that movie was phenomenal. Anybody who hasn't seen it, well, and one of my fishing buddies, Kevin Nemo, he actually sent me a video yesterday saying that I should do this on Lake Palestine or Lake Tyler. But there's some restaurant like in Norway that's in a big silver globe ball thing with windows in it, and they have electric boats that take you out to it, and they have like some 8 or 12 course fine dining menu out on this thing. I commented on that thing. I was like, man, somebody did not do their concept research very well. Like maybe if you opened this up 3 or 4 years ago, you'd be okay. But after that movie comes out, I'm not going to that restaurant.
It was, and the reason why I bring it up because it really ties in, and I don't want to give any spoilers of the movie for those who haven't watched it, but it really ties in with what we're talking about. Because again, listen, for those that haven't seen the movie, just mute this for the next 30, 60 seconds while I comment on this. And I won't do any spoilers, but it really does deal with, somebody that's worked their life hard to something that they love. And it turned out they were now trying to please other people and just got tired of the haters and trying to please the haters and the critics and all that, and just kind of lost his mind. And then the end of the movie, which kind of ties into what I was saying, and I'm not gonna say the end, but if you've seen it, you kind of understand what the end is. The end is the reflection of like, why did you started this? What made you happy? When you talk about that scene with the cheeseburger, it goes back to the picture that they had. The star of the protagonist of the movie sees and realizes this is what makes you happy. This is what put a smile in your face. It wasn't the holding the trophies. It wasn't holding the awards. It wasn't shaking hands with famous people. It was one simple thing that you started doing that was what brought you the biggest smile ever. And it kind of ties in when you think about kayak fishing in this journey. If you have a social media and if you want to share your experience, you can't worry about what other people are saying or doing or thinking about you. Understand, some people are going to like what you're doing, some people don't. Some people are going to be vocal about it, some people are going to be respectful about it, some people are not. But at the end of the day, is what makes you happy. If anybody hasn't watched that movie, it's pretty good. It does have some kind of, I won't say it's not a slasher film, but it does have some scenes where
it gets pretty graphic,
kind of goring. Yeah, it gets graphic,
but
not a lot.
Even those scenes are like, with the sous chef, the big mess, or whatever he called that dish.
Yes.
I mean, that is just kind of like this little tongue-in-cheek point at, how seriously critics, especially like Yelpers and stuff like people who have no business being critics, come at people for their jobs, for their livelihoods, for their, oh, we didn't, I don't, 100,000 people love your place. I hate your place. I hate you. I want to see it closed down. It's like, it's that serious to them. It's like they want you to stand in front of them and just take yourself out. It's like, and the absurdity of it is what made it, that's where there's kind of some little hidden Easter eggs in there for chefs to where it was just kind of like, man, this, like, I get exactly what you meant there. It's like people take it so seriously. And you really don't need to, it's something to pay attention to. And like you touched at with professional sports. And that's kind of where I was going with talking about where kayak fishing is headed is, professional sports were great until it came about selling, shampoo and Toyotas and I don't know, hair loss pills or whatever they're selling in the $10 billion commercials. We still managed to have a little bit of game time in there and enjoy the teams, enjoy the sport, enjoy the action. But the vast majority of our time is spent on sales. And by those guys running around the field, they are, by proxy, the salesman of these goods. The same thing is in fishing. Thankfully, even through 50 years of Bassmaster and things like that, it's stayed relatively endemic to the sport. It hasn't gotten too crazy. You're starting to see a lot of non-endemics come around and come into light, or non-endemics if people don't know things that wouldn't be obviously, a bass. Instead of being sponsored by Dobbins Rods, I'm sponsored by Modelo Beer. That would be a non-endemic company. So anyways, but I mean, like, those opportunities are starting to kind of come into kayak fishing. So I think that realizing in America as kind of being involved in any sort of sport that's on its way to a professional type status, or a lot of money being involved, is people realizing that they are in sales. Every day you're in sales. Every day, if you're going to get out there and chase, doing the entire Bassmaster series, I could not do that entire Bassmaster series without the sponsors that I have. There's no way that I could. There's no way I could afford it. Even if I could afford the trips, there's no way I could afford all the equipment and the trips. It's like, whether you're getting, full pop on stuff, whether you're getting paychecks from people, whether you're just getting a discount for some people, it's all important, and it all helps mold the sport. And it all helps mold you as a professional in that sport. It's so kind of being able to take those lessons that you learn from professional sports, or from running a restaurant, or doing social media that I do as a chef all the time. Just being able to transfer that into just a viable pathway to creating compensation for what you do as a fisherman. And it's kind of one of those things that not a lot of people really touch on. I feel like people are kind of closed-lipped about it. I don't know if maybe they're kind of wanting to hang on to the good ones for themselves or what, but it's something that I talked about a lot, is getting out there and learning how to be good at sales, learning how to represent your companies, and tying it around with your haters thing is the biggest thing that you can do. First step is be true, be you. Never try and fake it. Never try and push something that you don't believe in, or something that you don't know is great or not. It's one of those things is you can build a following. You can build a great following. It's easy to get numbers. It's easy to get follows, just the blind follows. But to get like engagement, get people that really care about you and what you have to say, you have to build trust, and you have to build the reputation as somebody that will point people in the right direction. Even when you don't know the answer, you're comfortable enough in telling people that you don't know and pointing them to the right person. But it's kind of one of those things is at the end that, if you're true to yourself and all of your followers, all the people who are important, which is the public at large, who are new to kayak fishing, that's probably not somebody that's on any group or any of the tournaments that we're on, any of the people that we have day-to-day interaction with on, whether it be, KBF or KBN, or, like in anywhere in between, is just trying to build that positive image of you, to those people who are our consumers, which are the people who aren't fishing tournaments yet, really. It's like, so you don't really need to care about what so-and-so says, on this tournament trail or that tournament trail, or this guy can fish, or that gal can't fish, or this guy can't fish, or, that he shouldn't have that sponsor, he doesn't have a big trophy. Like, no, man, like you have to learn, and you have to get out there and do it. And as long as you're representing the companies that you partner up with, well, the obvious haters are not the ones that are going to do anything to help your career anyways. Like, even if they were cool with you, they're not going to do anything to help your career.
Yeah, I agree. So let's talk a little bit about your trail, the U.S. Bassin.
It's
Say the
USA
name.
Bassin, like Bassin,
USA
but
Bassin.
Bassin. USA Bassin, and then Jackson Kayak was the title sponsor for that trail. So it's the USA Bassin Jackson Kayak Trail, which is it's a national trail, but it's broken down into regional entities. So it's kind of like you said earlier. It's kind of like the OG, I think you said
KBF in its
golden
golden
era.
age.
Yeah, like the
Yeah.
golden era of where it was very much regionally centered with very autonomic, very independently run regions with a common set of rules, with a common set of standards, with but there's allowed for some changes to go with kind of the regions and how they feel about little things, this and that. It started last year late, and in preparation for the 23 season. So I want to say it was probably October-ish or maybe November is when I got hit up, being a member of the Jackson Kayaks pro staff, and a former tournament director down here in East Texas. Um, they had found out that I had just left the trail that I had been a part of, and they asked if I'd be interested in starting a region down here. And I said, absolutely. After doing a little research into USA Bassin and where they came from, which they came from the boat side, and they've done some really cool events. They've got their own entire website and back end judging system, points accumulation system, payout structure. I mean, it's all the hard work was done. I mean, like literally the only thing that you had to do as a regional was get in and recruit, your locals and create your own spreadsheets and upload all your results to the site. And they took care of the rest, including a national championship, which is pretty cool. So yeah, we got it started. We did a 5 event season, which we just capped off just a few weeks ago, 2 or 3 weeks ago. And Sam Rayburn was our 5th event, and then we're going to do a little fall series, which is we'll probably start that up. I don't know, maybe do one in September, October. October and November seem to get so busy, so it's kind of hard. But I know we want to
Yep.
squeeze probably 3 events in between the end of September and December.
Nice. And what? How many trails? Like I know, like you have, like we mentioned, it's like regions. Tell
Mm-hmm.
us, talk to us about your region. So you have the
Yeah,
East Texas regions. What lakes you usually have trails on, and how many trails a season or a year do you
yeah.
have?
Well, we did. I mean, there's trails all over already, all over the Midwest and Northeast, East, Southeast. I mean, I can't even tell you how many regions there are now, but there's quite a few, and they're growing. They're still going on in a lot of those areas. But this year, I kind of spread them out a little bit over Texas, just because there wasn't another region that had been started in Texas yet. Hopefully, somebody jumps in and does, a Central Texas or a South Texas one. That'd be pretty cool. So I kind of spread mine out to where we could kind of partner up with TDs and trails in other regions, which to kind of encourage some crossover, because it's a points driven system. You have
Yeah.
to hit X amount of points to qualify for the championship. And so I wanted people to be like, to kind of commit to doing, 3 or 4 of these things, but also commit for them to, travel just a little bit further than they normally would, so that they could cross paths with some of these people that we may only get to meet at the throwdown every year, which is kind of like everybody outside of Texas. The throwdown is kind of the
Yeah.
meetup of all the regions in the state, and we have just one just banger of a of a tournament with everybody in it every year, and it's so much fun. So I was just kind of
Yeah.
trying to inspire a little bit of crossover throughout the season as well, and it went really well. We fished. Oh man, it was Lake Worth and Eagle Mountain with North Texas. We did uh, all star kayak fishing down on Belton. We did. Lake of the Pines event. We did Rayburn event, and I'll say there was one more, but that was Lake Fork. Yeah. So we had some good East Texas lakes, but we also dropped up into that kind of southeast, bordering up on with Rayburn, and then Belton, and then up in north of Fort Worth there, and so we really kind of spread it out, and just received really well. I mean, it went on without a hitch, and um, the trail that I founded here in East Texas originally is gone now. I had left them before I had started USA Bassin. And so it just kind of timed out. They decided to call it quits with what they were doing. So next year, this coming season, you're going to see us shrink that area a little bit and kind of go a little more consistent with those East Texas lakes. Just so, I mean, more so to take care of all the anglers that are in East Texas, because we want them to have a home. I mean, that's where I live. That's where I work. That's this is my home. So it's kind of like when that trail sadly went, it's time to make sure that all those folks that fish this region have a 5 or 6 trail series that they can fish. So you'll see us a little more focused in the East Texas region for the 24 schedule and the fall series for this year.
Nice. That's awesome. Where can people find more information on that trail?
USABassin.com. You just click tournaments, click on Kayak, click on Texas. On Facebook, you can look up, USA Bassin Jackson Kayak East Texas, and it'll pop up. If you find me, Lance McWhorter, anywhere, you can find anything. That's if you type Lance McWhorter into Instagram, you're probably going to get like 5 pages. You'll get my chef page, my fishing page, the ETX Paddle Sports page, the Culture ETX, the Plaid Rabbit, all that stuff. So that's the hardest thing in my life, is just keeping track of what Instagram page I'm logged into, or with all the meta changes. Like now, for those of you that know, it switches your account as opposed to being in a page.
Yeah.
Depending on what you click in notifications. Like I click one button, I'm on the Plaid Rabbit. I click on another button, I'm on East Texas. Then I'm back on mine. Then I'm in the kayak shop. It's like that's the craziest thing of them all.
No, it is. It's crazy how easily they make it accessible to go down that rabbit hole.
Yeah,
and it does. It catches it.
The big one out here now, though, just open it up, ETX Paddle Sports. Like, you guys, please come out and check it out. ETXPaddlesports.com. If you want to email me about anything, sales at ETX Paddle Sports. You go to the website, it's got everything on there, the address, the hours. Jackson Kayaks, Diablo Paddle Sports Kayaks, Blue Sky. We do full installs. I mean, all the accessories, all tons of tackle, all that stuff. You guys, and then the website is what I'm working on now. So that's just been sitting there parked like that just forever, because that's next on my list is e-com. So if there's any e-com experts out there in the world that will work for fishing gear, you let me know.
That's awesome. Well, I appreciate your time, man. I've had you for almost an hour, and we already talked about what a busy person you are. So I don't want to take too much of your time. So I really appreciate you taking the time. Anybody else you want to thank as far as supporting what you're doing and helping you achieve?
Oh man. I mean, I kicked it off with thanking Bailey. I mean, Bailey, thank you so much. I love you to death. She's my ride or die. Sponsor wise, Jackson Kayaks, Dakota Lithium Batteries, Power Pole, Newport Vessels, Missile Baits, Striker, Dobbins Rods. I mean, just catch products, spear point hooks. I mean, those are the ones that really keep me in the goods and keep me stocked up and keep me in gear and make sure, I'm not out of food, out of gas, and out of my mind when I'm out on the road. So truly appreciate all those guys, all of those brands, which we also carry here at the shop. Yeah, that's about it. Thank you so much for having me on.
My pleasure, man.
I haven't got to be on a podcast in so long, it seems like, and I miss it. It's so much fun, and just getting to hang out and drink beers. It's thank you, technology, for bringing the boys together for a beer.
Yeah, technology and social media does have its benefits. It's not all
1,000%
doom and gloom, for sure. It's just matter how you how you apply it, I guess, just like everything else in life.
Definitely.
Well, for those out there listening and watching, remember, if you're going to be on the water, wear your PFDs. If you're going to have a couple of beers while you're out there fishing, just make sure you drink responsibly, wear your PFDs again, stay hydrated through this scorching hot weather, and just make sure you make it back to your home once, everyone. So have a great night, everyone.